Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. The time is 11:31 a.m. on the 21st of October 2024. I'm a little bit out of puff. I just had a house inspection that I completely forgot about. So I've just done a quick run around, show the gentleman around things that need doing around the house. They told me they probably won't paint inside for another few more years because the paint's okay. It's not, it's terrible. And they might paint outside, which means they're not going to do anything. Basically, they're just waiting for me to fall off my perch and die, am I right? Could happen. I'm 59 and a half and my house is pretty shit. But I told them, I said, the government, they're just biding time till I fall off my perch and die. I said, I should keep my head down and stop fucking complaining. I said, but I'm an anarchist and a revolutionary and I'm fighting till the last breath. And there were two Māori men and they burst out laughing. They said, you've been a breath of fresh air, Tanya. Well, I speak the truth. I say it how it is. It costs me dear sometimes, but I say it how it is. It's just, what can I say? Life is weird, and but it's also beautiful. And anyway, they're going to fix the guttering issues. I've got some big vine. I said, yeah, I've been waiting for that to die and fall off organically, like my own silly self. And it's just like laughing. Well, just getting old shit and being on your own all the time and not having, enough money and having lost the ability to wealth create and having been robbed of so much of my wealth in my 30s and then again with the wool dispute when I was 47. It's a bit fucking hard, It's hard to start from nowhere and nothing. It's hard, but oh well. I'm existing in this world and I am kind of looked after in weird ways, but a nice paint job on the house would be good. And by the gods. They told me, they said they no longer polish the wooden floors either. They said we just put vinyl down. I said, oh, that's hideous, don't do that. If it comes to it, I'll have to find the money and do it myself. But I don't have the money to do it myself, so meanwhile the house just claps down around my ears, am I right? Anyway, I've got the men coming, men coming on Thursday to do the steps, which is a separate issue. It's already booked in, so that'll get done. And I'm looking for a particular thing I wanted to read to you, and do you think I can find it in this volume? I wanted to read to you from Man, Myth and Magic, but I'll be back. I've only got the first 3 volumes, the whole encyclopaedia. I'll be back. I've got to find the right one. And the awkward thing was the 2 men arrived, and for once I'm not wearing a bra because all my white bras and my lighter coloured bras are hanging on the line. I didn't realise I was going to have an inspection. So I'm sitting here like titty caca all free balling, and the 2 men arrived, and I'm like, what? And I was actually 7 minutes into the first video I started for you, and I had to start fresh because I got interrupted by the inspectors. So, oh my goodness, it's like hit the ground running some days, isn't it? Yes, here's the one I wanted to read to you about. Right. I always find this very interesting. This is one of my things that intrigues my tiny little psychedelic dreaming, my Mustang Quay brain. So, today we're going to read from, just looking some water there. Charlie, was that you? It's not water, it's poo and wee. Oh, that's nice, Charlie. You demon bird. By the gods. Turn my back for 5 minutes and it's anarchy and chaos. I love you. Give us a kiss. She's panting. She must be hot. Do you want a drink? Do you want a drinky? Are you a hot little birdie? You okay? So where were we? Just wipe this book off. Don't want bird poop on it. These books, this 3-volume is very old. I bought it when I was about 15 years old, and I've always cherished them. Came across the Tasman with me when we migrated here even. So, yep, there is that. So, we're going to read about Atavism from the Man, Myth and Magic Encyclopaedia of the Supernatural. A greenish substance, like a tenuous seaweed, began to invade the room. Experiences of atavism, the reappearance of animal characteristics from long ago, are rare and intensely horrifying. Atavism means reversion to an earlier type. Applied to human beings, atavism is the re-emergence of the characteristics of a certain ancestor or ancestors after a lapse of what may be many generations. The implication is nearly always of something unwholesome and frightening, and the idea has been used in many horror stories. In a broader sense, the term atavism is used by occultists to mean the reappearance of characteristics which come from so long ago that they constitute reincarnations. Just getting us centered a bit right, there we are. Or fresh embodiments of pre-human consciousness, things which come from the time of creatures, half man and half beast. Atavisms of this kind are very rare and intensely horrific, nor do they always emerge spontaneously. Can you hop up here, please? I hate it when she's hanging half off my arm. Now she's hanging off my boob. Oh, that's nice, dear. What are you doing? You're being a crazy bird. Oh, you want snuggles? She wants snuggles. Okay. Birdie wants snuggles. Birdie gets snuggles. Yes, you was a beautiful girl. I love you. Dance of the Jackal. Frederick K. Kaigh, in his book Witchcraft and Magic of Africa, describes a ritual performed by an African witch doctor. The witch doctor danced in frenzy to the rhythm of drums and emitted high-pitched screams like a jackal in rut. His dance reached a climax of ecstasy, and he fell to the ground, where he remained inert as a log. Then a young couple leapt into the clearing over the heads of the drummers and swaying watchers. After repeated gyrations and whirlings, during which they also emitted piercing cries, a subtle change came over them. Kay says that he witnessed the actual transformation of their bodies into the likeness of jackals. The rite terminated in repeated copulations, well beyond human capacity, even under the stimulus of aphrodisiacs. Kay explained this demonstration of atavism as the result of a spiritual ecstasy combined with powerful magic on the part of the witch doctor, whose projected double or astral body had obsessed the two dancers. The double usually assumes the true form of its original. In other words, the theory is that the witch doctor was the apparently human embodiment of an animal soul. Its temporary incarnation in the bodies of the dancers was the signal for the entire gathering to engage in a communal orgy. Woman into wolf. It is possible that long ago in ancient Egypt, certain similar processes of transformation were known to the priest magicians. Their identification of themselves with powers represented by animals suggests a knowledge of and traffic with atavistic energies that lie buried in man's subconscious as a legacy of his pre-human ancestry. William Seabrook, an American journalist and collector of occult experiences, stumbled on a curious case of atavism. He and a friend had been experimenting with an ancient system of Chinese magic called the I Ching, or the Book of Changes. The I Ching contains, amongst other things, 64 hexagrams. If one of these hexagrams is visualized and mentally impressed upon the surface of an imaginary door, it admits the practitioner, if he is sufficiently competent, to open the door imaginatively to a part of the astral world which is represented by the hexagram. Nothing much occurred when Seabrook and his friend tried the experiment, although they sometimes persevered for several hours in an effort to open the door and pass through it. One evening, however, a woman of their acquaintance said she wanted to try. She knelt down, resting the weight of her body on her heels. She then selected a figure which happened to be a hexagram called Ko, which looks like this. Let's try and get it as close to you as possible. So it's got the top line as a separated line, then the second, third, fourth moving lines are whole, then a separation, then whole. They actually have significance where the breaks and the whole lines are. Kind of, I guess, a bit like coding with noughts and zeros and binary code. It's kind of that same kind of technology, just to put it a little bit obliquely, I guess. That's how I'm looking at it anyway. The woman closed her eyes and mentally superimposed the hexagram on the door. Nothing happened for a very long time. Then, quite abruptly, she saw the door swing open. She began to describe what was happening to her as she projected her consciousness across the threshold. She entered a region of snow. Flurries of it swept all about her. It was some time before she realized with a shock that she was loping swiftly over a desolate and infinite tract of ice. What had begun innocently, almost as a game, be very careful when you play those kind of games. Same can be said about Ouija board. You gotta know what you're dealing with, people of Earth. Turned into a dangerous attempt to rescue her. Her features underwent a subtle and revolting change. Her lips drooled foam. Her speech faded and ceased altogether. From her throat issued a hideous baying sound that rose and fell. In trying to recall the woman's spirit, her friends shook her, called her name, and slapped her face. She snarled and would have savaged them if the cramped posture she had maintained for so long had not paralysed her limbs. 'Twas with great effort that her resistance was overcome. As she calmed down, her face lost its wolfish expression and assumed once more its usual appearance. It is interesting that the hexagram ko denotes transformation, or changing, as the leopard does when he changes his spots, or the tiger his stripes. It transpired some time after the event that as a small child the woman had seen wolves speeding over the snow in Russia and had felt an intense desire to run with them, as you do, women who run with the wolves, wild women, often severely traumatized women, really do have that desire to run with the wild ones at times. And it can, yes, be dangerous, especially when you choose cruel, evil, perverted, sadistic lovers. You think you're running with the wild, but you're actually dancing with death, who you also then have to take almost as a symbolic lover and run with her or him. I'm not a lesbian, but death comes to me as the lady Santa Muerte, or Lady Death, which is odd, but I guess because I died a few times as a child, I somehow incorporated that allegory as being feminine, you know. Maybe it was less frightening for a child to have a lady come for you than a man with a black coat, cloak and a scythe, am I right? I didn't actually see death as looking like that till I started reading the tarot when I was about 13 and the Rider-Waite deck, and I had to go to my mother and say, Mummy, how come death is a black cloak and is a skeleton and is like male? My mother just smiled. She wasn't very good at guiding me in anything, including through puberty, so had to figure out a lot of these things for myself, babies, and it made life very, very difficult for me. I'm still sometimes learning on my feet at 59 and a half years, things that should have been second nature by the time I was, 20s, in my 20s and 30s. So it's a bit odd, but it's a handicap I have to live with, I'm afraid. But the getting of wisdom has been astonishing and often gifted literally by spirit or God. So, my knowledge and my power comes both from within and from without, from higher realms. As Trismegistus says, as above, so below, as within, so without. So it's a bit confronting even for me sometimes when I realise that I'm being downloaded or gifted certain attributes, sometimes on the fly, literally thrown in the deep end, being tested and being made to swim very, very hard and very, very fast, babies. But when I get myself back up on my feet, be afraid, be very afraid. It's not nice to play games with the Mama-T, the Tanya, the psychedelic dreamer, Mustang Quay. I've rebuilt myself from many, many, many near deaths. And, I need, as any fellow mortal on this planet need to be treated with kindness and decency and respect. Left and above, 2 paintings by Austin Spare, whose work depicts the atavistic urges buried deep in the mind. You can see it in the black and white one of the man looking like a goat, but you don't really see the atavistic one in this one, except it's obviously a man going through some kind of mental, emotional, spiritual turmoil or transformation, but it's not clear what animal he's choosing to be. But it's interesting nevertheless. You can kind of, in the background of it, when you look carefully, see what looks like wolves. And anyway, I'm very passionate about the wolf. That's why my daughter bought me a wolf talk from Glastonbury, because I read the book by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, woman who runs with the wolves, and just as my marriage was coming to a grisly end, actually, another near-death experience. Jesus, it's a lot, people. But that book saved my life. That and a wonderful psychic I had seen only weeks previous. I'm just going to wipe a bit of schmutz off the screen. It's irritating me. I can't look at myself. It spots of Charlie's shit all over my face. Yeah, better now. So, yes, I've had interventions of very spiritual kind that came to me in the form of books, or in the form of psychic mediums literally advising me how to sustain myself a little bit longer on this planet. Here I am, 30 years later almost. It's astonishing that I'm still alive and still have great capacity to love other humans in spite of all their flaws and human foibles. It's nothing short of astonishing. Sometimes I sit back and go, I don't know how you're doing this, Tanya Aarons. How are you still doing this? But it's my magic and what the gods sent me back for 2015 and 2019, yet again, and recently in the night of the 10th of the 11th, 2024. They keep just giving me little tweaks just to remind me, choose life, baby girl, choose life, choose life, choose love, choose freedom, choose self-determination, choose courage, choose heart, and choose always and forever magic. And somewhere in those ingredients, built back, grew back the Tanya. And I'm satisfied. If I died right this moment, even though I haven't had a lover in over 9 years, and I haven't fallen in love in 10 years, and I've been holding myself very, very sacred, holding myself together, I'm content. I've had a lot of isolation and struggle and sometimes loneliness. I'm very rarely lonely, but I've had a difficult walk, but I have no regrets. I would not have done one thing differently. Holding my own pristine head above the waters, barely. And well, it is what it is, baby girls and baby boys. I'm proud of who I am, and I'm getting a little bit crazier as I get older, I've noticed, and I'm even reaching acceptance about that. It is what it is. My truth speaking and my living in my own integrity is bringing me gifts that don't bring me a love partner or a husband or a lover or even a boyfriend. It doesn't bring me any true friendships per se, because I'm held at bay because everyone thinks I'm odd. But it gifts me back, and that, my friends, is worth it. Absolutely worth it. So I'm grateful to the gods for protecting me and having my back, and only allowing good people in my inner circle, Sanctorum, who have my back and help sustain me on this planet for however long the gods decree that I stay around for. Am I right? It's astonishing. I fully never expected to be alive at 59 and a half. I didn't expect to be still alive at 40 or 50. So every day is a gift waiting to be unwrapped and delighted in and be surprised by. Yesterday, the surprise of my neighbour from down the road. Today, these lovely, charming inspectors who were both New Zealanders, Māori men. They were delightful too. So you see, everything is connected and powerful and beautiful, because attitude really is everything. And honesty is the best policy. Living at home in your mind, body and spirit is a home that you can take anywhere. Where you lay your hat is your home, when you have you back and you know yourself, and you know how you should be treated and what kind of love you will allow in your life. It's a gift. It doesn't pay my bills or put food in my fridge, which we joked about, the inspectors and I, but it's a gift. It truly is. So we carry on with reading on that subject, Atavism. Terror in the mist. I get my hair done tomorrow. Baruch Hashem, I look terrible. It's always bad at the end when all the roots show. It gets all lank and funny, and I know. I'll look glamorous tomorrow. Will you still love me tomorrow, my darlings? Oh. Terror in the mist. A formula for sounding these remote depths of the mind was worked out by Austin Osman Spare. Spare was an artist who had been a member of an occult group called the Golden Dawn. Now what have I got going on now? I need a drink. That's what I need. I've had to drink a lot today. I'm really thirsty. It's odd. I suppose 10 hours of dancing will dehydrate you. You know, but I did have drinks when I was dancing. But oh, Charlie, demon bird. Oh, right all over me. My little one. Crikey, Charlie. Crikey. Crikey. Oh. I need a bigger house. I need to win lotto, buy a bigger, modern house with expansion all around me. Fabulous rooms. Gorgeous man by my side. Oh, it's a dream. Probably never wake up from. Anyway, where was I? Yes. Oh, just got it down my skirt too. The Golden Dawn, which flourished in the early years of this century, which taught the assumption of God forms. on the model of ancient Egyptian magic, in which the magician tries to merge his consciousness with that of a god, usually imagined in animal form. Speer's formula of atavistic resurgence was based on the use of symbolic pictures, which gave a visible form to various atavistic urges and desires deep in the mind. He claimed that he had only to visualize one of these pictures for the atavistic impulse to surge up. An example which he gave was an occasion when he needed to move a heavy load of timber with no one to help him. Speer closed his eyes for a while and visualized a picture which symbolized a wish for the strength of tigers. I would have actually visualized rather an ox to move heavy timbers. I've been known to move very, very heavy fucking furniture on my own with a bit of strategic using blankets and attitude, without any visualization, but just by sheer force of will, because I had no one to help me. And many times, I've had to ask men, friends and acquaintances, they're either working, they're busy, or point blank don't wanna. So I have to do things by myself, and I'm sometimes astonished at what I've achieved by myself. It is almost a form of kind of a trance-like state when I fly into such a rage at having to do everything by myself, for myself, of myself, that I've done it. Sometimes crippled myself. One time a piece of furniture smashed into my leg and it was extremely painful. Another time I wrecked my back. But I achieved the goal. I moved the fucking furniture. Dragged a heavy piece of furniture up from the front driveway all the way up to the back, and even miraculously got it up my 3 back steps and manoeuvred it into my kitchen. When one of the feet fell off it, I just slammed it back on. It's and then it's a beautiful piece of furniture actually, and then I inlaid mother of pearl into it. So but yeah, I was determined to get that into my house. It was like all by myself. I look back at that and I think, who actually did that? It wasn't me. I'm only a short little 5'3" hobbit woman. I'm not that strong, but by force of will, force of determination, I'm capable of great things, people. Sometimes, not always. I wouldn't be able to do it on a daily basis, but I've been known to perform superhuman feats like that. And I'm quite proud of it actually. It's not good for my health, but I'm proud of it. It was a bit of a superhuman feat dancing for 7 hours yesterday. I would have liked to have stayed longer, but I knew I was starting to decompensate. I was looking around and seeing threats everywhere. Time to go home, baby girl. You've reached beyond the point of exhaustion where you're about to launch into some kind of berserker behaviour which can happen. I have to carefully monitor and calibrate that. It's like, if I see too many threats and I go into overprotective mode, it's when I can lose control over my temper, etc. But I didn't. So, I was well aware that I was exhausted. I was actually exhausted 3 or 4 hours before that, so I'd already passed through all my wins. That's it, you're done, girl, you can't do this anymore. And frankly, I need someone to look after me a bit and be nurturing and kind and be a man, stand by my side and support me, and that's never going to happen, so I just have to know when to go home, know when it's time, know when the dance is done. And but it was very beautiful and powerful, my dance yesterday and Friday night, and I'm grateful, and loving that too, that I have that soul expression every Friday. So it's important to me. Anyway, where was I? Spare closed his eyes for a while and visualised a picture which symbolised a wish for the strength of tigers. Almost immediately, he sensed an inner response. He then felt a tremendous upsurge of energy sweep through his body. For a moment, he felt like a sapling bent by the onslaught of a mighty wind. With a great effort of will, he steadied himself and directed the force to its proper object. A great calm descended. I hear voices, but I can't see anymore. A great calm descended, and he found himself able to carry the load easily. I'm going to segue a bit from that. I've told this story, I think, in other videos about my de facto stepfather, Cornelis van der Graaf, told me the story of while in Middle Baldora in the tunnel where they were assembling the V1 and V2 rockets that blitzed London. Werner von Braun came down, or some other high-up Nazi officer came down. He said, I need a volunteer to lift these two heavy steel doors, put them into place. He asked for one volunteer. One of the prisoners was a doctor by profession, and he stepped forward and he said, it's completely impossible for one man to be able to lift those steel doors into place. It would take at least 2, possibly 3 men. The Nazi officer in front of everyone shot that doctor right in the middle of his head. Bang, gone. He said, any more dissent? Who's going to volunteer? So one man stepped forward, and that one man, who was not a particularly big, burly, stronger than anyone else man, but under threat of death, lifted those 2 steel doors into place. Kay said to me, that is the power of the human mind in survival mode, to have almost superhuman strength to survive almost anything. The mind is capable of great things under extreme pressures. In my case, not so extreme. I just wanted to carry that piece of very heavy timber furniture up the hill and into my house. But I always remembered that. It was a horrendous story, and I always felt terribly sorry for the doctor, who was right. Technically, it was impossible, but by sheer force of human will and the desire to survive, it was achieved. Carry on reading. On another occasion, 2 people pressed spare to conjure up an atavistic spirit in visible form. He warned them of the dangers involved, explaining that these creatures exist within the mind at levels not normally in communication with the conscious mind, that it was foolish to evoke them because they embodied the atavistic urges and desires of those who would behold them. But the couple insisted. Spare again used his symbolic picture method. He closed his eyes and waited. It was not long before a greenish substance like tenuous seaweed began to invade the room, partially obscuring the objects it contained. It resembled a coiling mass of vapour which slowly congealed into a definite shape. It gained more and more substance with each successive moment, until the terrified dabblers panicked and begged spare to banish it. Before it faded, however, they saw a vast face peering out of the mist. The eyes of it were like pools of black and burning oil. Spare died in 1956 in a basement flat in Brixton, in poverty and obscurity. Written by Kenneth Grant. Let's find another subject to read from. Maybe one more because I'm very tired. And, maybe we'll stick with the theme of animals since I've flicked on that at the back. Oh no, wait a minute, this might be more interesting. Let me find it. I was going to read about Boar. Oh, you know what? It's only one page. We can do both. What am I plutzing about? Plutzing, plutzing, plutzing. Schmutzy, schmutzy, schmutzy poo. What are we gonna do? Let's get on with it, babies. Boar. The ferocity of the wild boar made it a symbol of death and destruction and an enemy of the gods. But it was also a symbol of fertility, and the boar's head on a warrior's helmet or shield was thought to protect him by giving him the beast's courage and strength. The drawing of the boar. The power and fury of the sovereign beast have given the wild boar a wealth of symbolism, from Iceland to India, and a vast and tenacious body of folklore and legend. The ancient words of the Boar's Head carol recall the traditional festivals of Christmas and its pagan predecessor, the winter feast of Yule. A boar is a sovereign beast and acceptable in every feast. So might this lord be to most and least. Know well, know well. This boar's head we bring from song in worship of him that thus sprang out of a virgin to redress all wrong. Know well, know well. From antiquity to the Middle Ages and later, the boar was first of all a symbol of the fertility of the earth. In Germany, when the corn waved, it was once said, "The boar is rushing through the corn," and children were warned, "Don't go through the corn, there's a boar in there." The last sheaf at harvest, sometimes called the sow, was saved, and from it was made a loaf in the form of a boar. This was placed on the Yule table until the end of the festive season. It was then kept until the spring sowing, when part would be eaten and part mixed with the seed corn to ensure a healthy crop. A comparison may be drawn with the Scandinavian Yule custom of drinking and eating to a good agricultural year and to peace. The idea of sacrifice in the dead of winter to the fertility deities was not far off, though there is little direct evidence on this point. But the boar was the sacred animal of the fertility god Freyr in Scandinavian mythology. By the gods, I'm tired, stumbling over my words. Snorri's Edda tells how Freyr rode to Baldur's funeral behind the boar Goldenborsti, golden bristles, also known as the one with terrible tusks. Another boar mentioned in the Eddic literature, the source books of Scandinavian mythology, is Saehrimnir, Saehrimnir. My goodness. The boar which was killed and eaten afresh every day by the dead heroes in Valhalla. Have to be worthy to get to Valhalla. Fertility and death. The boar was thus also connected in the mythology of many peoples with the symbolism of death and the dead. My goodness, now my eyes itchy. By the gods. Always something with the time, isn't it? It's always something. In Northern Europe and Scandinavia, the boar, representing the souls of the departed, was believed to run on the storm clouds as part of Odin's wild hunt. Here we can recognize the curious tension between fertility and destruction that was characteristic of many early mythologies. The Roman historian Tacitus said that the Aesti, a tribe in northeastern Germany, worship the mother of the gods. They wear, as emblem of this cult, the masks of boars, which stand them instead of armour or human protection and ensure safety of the worshipper, which suggests this ambivalence. The dual life and death aspect of the mother goddess and related fertility deities is well known. The wearing of armour, especially helmets shaped in the form of a boar's head or ornamented with boar's tusks, is attested at least as far back as Mycenaean Greece. The position of the boar in Greek mythology and its connection with the gods is illustrated by such episodes as that of the Caledonian boar hunt in the Iliad, Book 10. Among European archaeological finds of recent years was the boar's head helmet found at Sutton Hoo in Suffolk in 1939. The object of this ornamentation was probably magical. The boar symbol was also emblazoned on shields and standards, even in pre-Christian Europe, and the use of the boar emblem, sanglier, in European heraldry is to be traced back to the source. The most famous wearer of this device was the English king, Richard III. The boar of evil. In the ancient Near East, the boar's various aspects as a fertility symbol of death and animal of a hunt were also well marked, though among Semitic and Egyptian peoples, its character as an embodiment of evil tended to be stressed. Semitic peoples, it seems, have always regarded the pig as unclean and have refused to have anything to do with it. This was probably because it was originally a sacred animal. The Greek writer Plutarch could not decide whether the Jews worshipped or abominated it. Among peoples who refused, and in some cases still refuse, to eat pork were the Cretans, Syrians, Phoenicians, Egyptians, and Ethiopians, as well as the Jews and Muslims. Legends of gods slain by boars or while boar hunting are numerous. Adonis, consort of Aphrodite, and Attis, consort of Cybele, both met their end in this way. The same may be true of the Egyptian god Osiris, though the evidence here is scanty. The Cretans held that Zeus himself was a prince ripped up by a wild boar and buried in their midst. This assertion is supposed to have earned them their traditional reputation as liars. Thus the boar came to be the incarnation of the enemy of the gods. In Egypt, for example, the evil god Set was porcine in form. Traces of a similar conception in the West can be found in traditions of Odin's wild hunt and in the story of King Arthur's boar hunt, in which the fabulous boar is the emissary of Satan to be overcome not by force but by prayer. Comparable accounts of boar hunts are found in many medieval texts, among them the French Song of Roland, the Anglo-Norman Beuve de Hampton, Hountony? I don't know. I don't know. When I don't know, I admit that I don't know. Haum sounds German. Haum, tone, Tone. Well, anyway, I'm stumbling over that one, people of Earth. The Romance of Sir Eglamour and the German Nibelungenlied. That sounds better. You wouldn't believe that I'm half German, would you? And struggle to pronounce German words. But yeah, that one was hard. Lied is a song, I know that much. Not sure what Nibelungen means. Nibelungenlied. I was going to Google, but I'm too tired. You can Google it. Nibelungenlied. Work for your knowledge a little bit. Can't hand everything to you on a silver platter. Have you engorge on my energy and my magic and my zest for life. Do your own research, people of Earth. I'm joking. I'm quite happily reading these to you. Nobody put a gun to my head and made me do it. It's for the sake of the muse and the ancestors and spirits that love me, of course. In India, though the volume of material is far less than in Europe, one of the incarnations of the gods, Vishnu, was as a boar, while an Indian creation legend tells how the god Brahma, in the form of a boar, lifted up the earth on his back from the waters of the primeval flood. The power and potency of this sacred animal was believed in many parts of the world to be a source of magical aid. Boar's tusks and hooves were used as amulets, while an infusion of boar's tusk could help cure all manner of ailments, from epilepsy and toothache to the twinges. Right. I'll read blood. Here it shows someone making a sacrifice to the gods. Here it shows someone about to be beheaded, which is not terribly pleasant either. Underneath the picture of the Aztec warrior it says, when a man loses blood, he weakens and dies. As a result, blood is life, and a blood sacrifice may be meant to strengthen a god by giving him life, as the Aztecs offered blood to the sun. A modern mural from Guatemala, and the Asian painting is the Guatemalan one. The Asian painting says, since blood is life, it may also be the soul, the part of man that survives the death of the body. In the Indian Mahabharata, Drona prepares for death by collecting his soul together from all his limbs. As his head is cut off, the soul rises up like a column of blood-red flame. Right. So it was Indian, not Chinese. Looked a bit Chinese with that top knot on his head. So there you go. Blood. Oh no, first I'll read the little paragraph that comes before that. In every land, primitive man has nourished the soil with the strength of human blood. Too much blood has been shed for centuries, for millennia, and millions of years. Flanders Fields comes to mind, Gallipoli, the concentration camps spread across Europe and the Holocaust. So much blood has been shed, even now in our current time, on the brink of another war now with Iran. It's enough already, don't you think? Human beings. The identification of blood with life, soul, strength, and virility is the basis of many ideas deeply rested in our minds. Chemically, blood is also identical with seawater. I didn't know that. There you go. Providing a clear indication of the marine origins of all living creatures. And it has been described, with good reason, as the river of life, for it courses through the body in an unending stream which terminates only with death. Our blood's worth bottling though, isn't it? Is our blood worth bottling, Charlie? You should speak for yourself, Mama T. Men observed long ago that bodily death involves the cessation of the flow of blood, and that when a man is wounded and loses blood, he weakens and dies. The natural result was the belief that a creature's blood is its life. It is only a short step from the concept of blood as life to the identification of blood with the soul, which lies behind the fear of spilled blood. By impregnating the earth with the soul power of its owner, the blood is thought to threaten anyone who treads on it. To neutralize the danger, it is necessary to destroy the blood, often by fire. The shedding of innocent blood on the ground could make the spot accursed forever. For the outraged soul cried out for vengeance. What are you doing? What? Mama's little bird. Mama's little bird. There are many barren patches of earth in the British Isles where, for this reason, according to tradition, no grass will grow. One of the best known is the grave at Montgomery churchyard of William Davies, who was executed in 1821 for a crime of which he was almost certainly innocent. It's heinous when it happens to someone innocent. It's a vileness. Food taboos often arise directly from the concept of blood as the soul. Oh, Charlie, what are you doing? The prohibition against consuming the blood of animals among the Jews and some American Indian tribes still testifies, to the undying strength of this old belief. Also, just getting a bit passionate. All such taboos are rooted in the belief that if you drink the blood of an animal, its soul becomes absorbed into your own body. On the other hand, many communities ritually drink the blood of animals and men whose peculiar qualities they admire. The Norwegian hunters of old drank bear's blood to acquire the formidable strength of the bear. And in East Africa, Maasai warriors are known to invigorate themselves with draughts of the blood of lions. As with animals, so with men. The head hunters of the Central Celebes in the East Indies drank and ate human blood and brains so as to become brave, and in the initiation ceremonies of the Aborigines of Central and Western Australia, the young were anointed with the blood of the old and experienced men of the tribe. Similarly, by drinking the blood of a god, one might acquire his divine qualities. In the Christian communion service, the worshippers drink the wine, which is symbolically the blood of Christ. I always thought that was extremely weird, even as a child. I have to shake it off, so I find it an abomination. In the Church of the Holy Blood at Bruges is exhibited a vial of ruby-coloured liquid, which tradition says is the water with which Joseph of Arimathea washed the body of the crucified Christ stained with the divine blood. Integral with the worship of a deity is the concept of blood sacrifice, the victim being the firstborn or the best. Bed. I need to go back to bed. I really do. I'm off my head. I'm exhausted. By the gods. Well, this is what comes of partying on like a wild woman all weekend. No regrets. Je ne regrette rien. Now where were we? The victim being the firstborn or the best, whose blood is shed to propitiate the god. The Vikings paid tribute to the gods of the sea by running their long ships over the bodies of prisoners, reddening the keels with their blood, a custom which survives symbolically in the ship christening ceremony of today. Blood was the essential factor in the human sacrifices of ancient Mexico and Peru, in which thousands were killed to ensure a bountiful harvest. In every land, primitive man has nourished the soil with the strength of human blood. Blood of the hunted. Our ancestors were convinced that animals had ghosts and could haunt their murderers indeed. The Kayans of Borneo were haunted by the souls of panthers they killed, and for protection smeared themselves with the blood of fowls, which was considered an effective defence. Zuni hunters in the southwestern United States smeared themselves with the blood of animals they killed and buried some of the blood in a rite to placate the ghosts. Possibly such rites have associations with the blooding ceremony still practiced by British fox hunters. One of the nightmares which have dominated the mind of man has been his fear of menstrual blood, which, due possibly to its apparent abnormality and also to the fact that it emanates from the bodies of women who are generally regarded as evil, has been considered unnatural and sinister. This is how stupid men are. The very thing that makes it possible for them to exist is the thing they hate. Stupidity and vileness. It was sometimes assumed to be the result of the bite of an evil spirit or a snake, and many communities have regarded it as a blood sacrifice to the moon. Contact with menstrual blood could be extremely dangerous, and as a precaution, women have at various times been isolated and even caged. The mere glance of a woman in her menses could be almost lethal, and in many places, menstruating women have been prevented from touching the earth with their feet in case they should pollute the ground. Scoring above the breath. According to popular belief, the magic power of a witch was contained in her blood and was transmitted to her children. Its potency for evil remaining unimpaired by time unless destroyed by fire. The result was the custom of burning the body of a condemned witch. The witch signed her pact with Satan in her blood, and with the same blood she suckled her familiar imp. Matthew Hopkins, the self-appointed English witch-finder general, reported the case of the witch Elizabeth Clark, who fed her familiar Jamara, the legless spaniel, with her own blood, and the same accusation was made against many other witches. Highly unlikely, to be honest. They made so many slanderous lies up just because a woman didn't have sexual congress with them or was in love with someone else or whatever twists and turns their depraved minds took the form of. I'm talking about those who persecuted women as witches, not the other way around, by the way. Blood played as important a role in white magic as in black. A witch's power could be destroyed if she was scored above the breath, which meant tearing her forehead, mouth or nose until her face became bloody. The same method was employed by European peasants to control werewolves. Blood combined with the hair, nail parings and urine of a bewitched person was used in the witch bottle, a device for breaking the spell of a witch. The bottle would be brought to the boil on the kitchen fire at midnight to the accompaniment of the Lord's Prayer said backwards, causing the witch dreadful agony and sometimes death. Wish I thought about that with my own mother when I found out she was putting spells on me. But I found that out after the effect when the public trustee had me go through her house. So it was too late then. She was already, well, not dead but languishing in the shadowlands with advanced Alzheimer's. A zombie. Veritable fucking zombie. That's what happens when you do evil to your own bloodlines. Karma's a bitch, babies. Remember that. Anyway, we all get old and die eventually. Be my fate too if I'm not careful. Or if I'm too careful, as the case might be. Anyway. The power of sympathy. The belief that shed blood retains a connection with the person or animal from which it came lies behind the sympathetic powder made famous by Dr. Kennel Digby in 1661. According to Digby, a sick person could remain in his bed at home while his doctor applied the sympathetic powder to a portion of blood-stained bandage which had been delivered to him at his chambers, and a wound so treated would rapidly heal. Sealing agreements by the ceremonial use of blood is known as the blood covenant. Blood brotherhood involved the mutual drinking of blood by the contracting parties, or the commingling of blood by cutting each party and touching the wounds together. Became a common feature of tribal life in ancient Europe and among many American Indians to create artificial kinship between individuals who were not related. Royal blood and the blood of chiefs is assumed to possess inherent qualities not shared by lesser mortals, and because of its sacred character, must not be spilled. Kublai Khan, the 13th century Mongol chieftain, son of Genghis Khan, in ordering the execution of a kinsman of noble blood, subscribed to this tradition by decreeing that the illustrious prisoner should be tossed to death in a blanket. Interesting. Out, damned spot. The old belief that blood cried out for vengeance persisted long in folklore and literature. Stories abound of murderers striving in vain to wash the guilty blood from their hands and clothing, or from the blood-stained ground. Such blood is believed to be indelible and forces the cry from the tortured lips of Lady Macbeth, "Out, damned spot! Out, I say!" In deference to the theory that the blood of the murdered demanded vengeance, suspects were made to touch the corpse of a murdered person whose wounds were supposed to bleed afresh on contact with the murderer. In America, a patch of moss turns blood red each year at the scene, in Maine, of an Indian massacre, and the ground beneath a colonial gibbet on Rhode Island was soaked with blood for years, legend says, after a robber was hanged there. Which is kind of interesting, because when you hang you don't tend to bleed, do you? Usually, unless the neck gets torn open or something, but pause for thought there, isn't it? A hanging in which the ground beneath was soaked in blood for years. Also connected with the mystique of blood are race myths based on the assumption of the superiority of one blood over another. The concept of blood as the scarlet river of life retains a psychological dynamism in our own time. It invades our social attitudes and our religious beliefs and appears in many of our traditional phrases. Violence and feuds are the result of bad blood, and an angry man's blood boils. An organisation which rejuvenates itself brings in young blood, and something done deliberately is done in cold blood. Inherited characteristics run in the blood, and your family are your flesh and blood. Young men in love or hate are hot-blooded, and the banner of the revolutionary is blood red. Excuse me. Contributed by Eric Maple. Further reading: Encyclopaedia of Superstitions, 1961, A History of Medicine, 1965, E. Maple, Magic, Medicine and Quackery, A.S. Barnes Publisher, 1968, and B. Seaman, The River of Life, Norton, 1961. So, on that note, that's my offerings today. Boar and blood and atavism. Atavism is one of my favourite things that I often think about. If I were to turn into an animal, it would either be a wolf, which is my spirit animal, or perhaps a horse, or perhaps, an eagle or a hawk or some other powerful bird that can fly for long distances. Yes. I guess I don't know for sure, had a previous life as a Native American. Maybe. But I have a deep affinity for that culture and spirituality. And yes, it's all very interesting. Gives me sometimes many hours of contemplation. So anyway, on that note, beautiful people of planet Earth, I bid you adieu and have a beautiful day wherever you are in the space-time continuum. Remember, as always, that magic happens and everything you need to know about yourself, our Earth, our cosmos is already deep inside you. So, as the Oracle of Delphi says, know thyself. And remember, as always, love is the law, love under will. The greatest force in the known cosmos is that of love. So, shalom, be at peace, my beloved ones. Bye for now.